You are trapped in the collective illusion. Awakening begins when you question everything. The silent pain of living on autopilot. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a life where every day feels like a copy of the last. You wake up, follow routines, respond to demands, but something in you whispers, this isn't truly living. This is the silent ache of the soul when it realizes it's been asleep with its eyes open. Many people function this way for decades, surviving, but not sensing, obeying without questioning. It's not laziness. It's disconnection. A slow forgetting of one's inner voice beneath the noise of the world. Perhaps you feel it too. That subtle emptiness behind your achievements. That lingering sense that your life was scripted by someone else. This is not your fault. From early childhood, your mind was trained to fit into systems designed to suppress curiosity and obedience to the inner self. Family expectations, cultural conditioning, and fear-based beliefs become the architecture of your personal matrix. Without even realizing, you were hypnotized into a version of life that isn't aligned with who you truly are. Bruce Lipton explains how our subconscious programs, mostly written before age 7, run about 95% of our daily behaviors. What this means is shocking. Most of your life is not being lived by you, but by a collection of inherited beliefs, fears, and silent agreements. This is not a metaphor. It's neuroscience. And awakening begins the moment you pause and ask, whose thoughts are these? Whose dreams am I really chasing? That question alone begins to shake the illusion. The pain of autopilot is subtle, but real. It shows up as chronic fatigue, unexplained anxiety, a flatness in the eyes. It's not a mental illness. It's a spiritual numbness, a soul that's been taught to sit still and stay quiet. But what if you no longer ignored the whispers inside? What if those symptoms were not signs of failure, but sacred messages asking for your return? When you recognize this, pain becomes a signal. Not to be silenced, but to be followed inward. Imagine your life as a house built by others. Every brick placed by someone else's hands. Now imagine picking up a single brick and asking, do I still want this here? That's how it begins. Not by tearing everything down, but by slowly replacing illusion with intention. Your awakening doesn't need to be loud. It can be a quiet revolution of awareness. One breath, one question, one choice at a time. The forgotten power of perception. What if your entire life, your pain, your joy, your limitations, were shaped not by truth, but by perception? We often think we see reality as it is, but the truth is, we see reality as we are. Your mind filters every moment through memories, emotions, and subconscious beliefs. What you call life is actually a projection of what you've been taught to expect. That's not just spiritual wisdom. It's confirmed by neuroscience and quantum physics. Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza both emphasize that perception isn't passive, it's creative. The brain takes in signals, compares them to past experiences, and fills in the blanks with predictions. This means most of what you think you're seeing is actually memory being reactivated. If you believe you are unworthy, your perception will confirm that belief in every interaction. It becomes a feedback loop. Belief creates perception, and perception reinforces belief. The tragedy is that many of these beliefs are not even yours. They were inherited through words left unsaid in your childhood, in the trauma of your parents, in societal norms that told you to dim your light. You were taught to see the world through lenses of fear, scarcity, guilt, or shame. And those lenses became your normal. No wonder you feel stuck. You're navigating life with outdated maps. The path to freedom begins with the courage to remove those lenses. Here's a practice. When something triggers you, ask, what part of me is interpreting this? A wounded child, a silent memory, an ancestral fear. That question shifts you from reaction to observation. Observation is powerful. It's the first step in becoming conscious of your filters. When you become the observer, you break the spell of projection. You stop reacting to illusions and begin responding from presence. Imagine walking through a dense forest, wearing colored glasses without knowing. Everything looks blue, so you believe the forest is blue. But then someone gently hands you a clear lens, and suddenly the trees are green, the light is golden, and the path appears. That lens is awareness. You didn't change the world, you changed the way you see it. And that small shift can transform everything. The hidden sabotage of spiritual performance. Imagine trying to meditate while secretly hoping someone notices how spiritual you are becoming. Or repeating mantras with your lips, but resentment echoing inside your chest. This is the quiet trap of spiritual performance, when the ego wears the mask of awakening. You may look enlightened on the outside, but inside, you're still aching for approval, validation, or control. The performance becomes a cage disguised as light. Many sensitive souls fall into this pattern without realizing it. You begin the spiritual path sincerely, searching for meaning, healing, or truth. But somewhere along the way, you absorb new expectations that you must vibrate high, never feel anger, always forgive instantly. These ideals become another prison, suffocating your authenticity in favor of an image. And just like that, your journey inward is hijacked by the very ego you hope to transcend. Joe Dispenza teaches that transformation only happens when thought, emotion, and energy are aligned in coherence. But spiritual performance breaks that coherence. You say one thing but feel another. You post about surrender but control everything in silence. This internal dissonance creates energetic noise, and the quantum field responds to that. Not your words, not your appearance, but your truth. And truth is vibration. It cannot be faked. So how do you break free? Start by being radically honest with yourself. Ask, am I practicing this for connection or recognition? Am I posting to inspire or to be seen? Am I truly feeling love or forcing it to silence my pain? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are invitations. When you meet your spiritual ego with compassion, you stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, healing begins. Picture a candle trying to outshine the sun, exhausting itself, believing it must prove its light. But when it remembers it is the light, it simply burns. No effort, no performance, just presence. Your path is sacred, not because others see it, but because you feel it deep in your bones. Let go of how it should look. Let it be. In that surrender, you return to something real, the soul's quiet radiance, free from needing to be anything other than true. Why awakening feels like falling apart. There's a moment in the spiritual path where everything starts to unravel. Relationships shift, desires vanish, and what once comforted you begins to feel empty. It's easy to mistake this as failure. But what if falling apart is actually falling through an old identity? Awakening isn't the addition of light, it's the dissolution of illusion, and often illusions must crack before truth can shine through. Bruce Lipton reminds us that cells reorganize under stress, that transformation happens not in comfort, but in chaos. In awakening, the same principle applies. Your psyche dissolves the false self so that your biology, emotion, and spirit can realign. It feels like disorientation, because the familiar ego is losing its grip. And that's terrifying, until you realize it's a sacred clearing. You are not breaking, you are becoming. During these phases, it's essential to avoid self-diagnosing your pain as regression. Your soul is shedding outdated codes, beliefs you inherited, roles you were taught to perform, and stories that no longer match your vibration. What feels like losing yourself is often your higher self reclaiming space. The ego calls it chaos, the soul calls it expansion, and the body, if you listen closely, is adjusting its frequency to match this new blueprint. Imagine a snake shedding its skin. It must rub against hard surfaces, feel raw and exposed, and retreat from the world. But it doesn't question the process. It trusts the instinct. You are in the same shedding. Let the old fall away. Rest, trust, grieve, if needed. But remember, this is not the end. It's the sacred dismantling that precedes rebirth. On the other side of this crumbling is clarity. The subtle violence of forcing positivity. There's a spiritual violence we rarely name, the pressure to stay positive no matter what. In grief, we're told to smile. In fear, we're urged to trust. But true healing doesn't come from bypassing the dark. It comes from feeling it fully. When you force positivity, you silence the parts of you that most need love. You don't transcend pain by ignoring it. You alchemize it by embracing it. The field of epigenetics, as Bruce Lipton shows, proves that our environment, internal and external, influences which genes activate. This means suppressed emotions don't vanish. They manifest biologically. A forced smile may impress others, but your cells know the truth. Healing begins when you allow your inner world to express what's real. Not perform happiness, but embody honesty. In spiritual circles, the obsession with high vibes only creates shame around sadness, anger, or fatigue. But these emotions are not lower vibrations. They are informational frequencies. Anger protects. Sadness reveals. Fear points to unhealed fragments. The key is not to eliminate them, but to listen. When you stop labeling your emotions as good or bad, you start meeting yourself with compassion. That's the true high frequency. Think of a flower. It doesn't bloom faster by pretending the soil isn't dark. It grows because the soil holds its roots, nourishes its seed, and supports the slow, silent process of becoming. You are no different. Darkness isn't your enemy. It's your depth. Positivity, when real, is not a mask. It's the fragrance that rises after truth has been held. So let it rise in its time. The dopamine trap in spiritual seeking. Every spiritual insight gives a rush, a sense of elevation, purpose, connection. But over time, this rush can become addictive. You chase peak experiences one after another without grounding them. This is the dopamine trap, mistaking chemical highs for true transformation. Your soul isn't asking for more. It's asking for depth. And that depth is often quiet, slow, and subtle. Neuroscience shows how dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, spikes during novelty. A new practice, a new teacher, a new aha moment feels good, until it fades. Then you search again, believing something's missing. But what's missing is integration. Without repetition, reflection, and embodiment, wisdom remains a concept. Bruce Lipton would remind you, the subconscious only changes through reprogramming, not revelation alone. When you're caught in the seeking loop, you confuse progress with motion. But not all movement is evolution. Sometimes, staying still is the most radical act. The path is not a straight line up. It's a spiral. You revisit wounds, deepen insights, return to the breath again and again. That's not regression. That's mastery. Awakening doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it's a whisper, Visualize a wave. It rises, crashes, recedes, and returns. If you only value the peak, you miss the wisdom of the tide. Your journey is the same. Let go of the need to feel high all the time. Let yourself root, absorb, digest. There is gold in the pause, sacredness in the ordinary. When you stop chasing the next moment, you finally arrive in this one. When desire blocks manifestation. Desire is natural, but desire without coherence creates confusion in the field. You say you want love but fear abandonment. You visualize abundance but vibrate in scarcity. This split is not just emotional, it's energetic. The quantum field responds to your dominant signal, not your wish. That's why manifestation isn't about intensity, it's about alignment. Neville Goddard taught, "You manifest what you assume to be true, not what you want." When desire is rooted in lack, it sends a message. I don't have this. That becomes the vibration, and vibration is the language of the universe. Joe Dispenza explains that elevated emotion plus clear intention, creation. But if your desire triggers anxiety, it's not elevated. It's resistant. So how do you desire without blocking it? You shift from yearning to embodying. Instead of waiting for love, you become it. Instead of visualizing peace, you breathe it. The field mirrors your frequency, not your fantasy. The more you live your intention, the less you need to chase it. Manifestation is not a future event. It's a present embodiment. Picture the sun. It doesn't seek warmth. It is warmth. That's your task. Become the frequency of what you seek, not as performance, as presence. When the signal you emit matches the reality you desire, the universe has no choice but to respond, not out of magic, but resonance. That's the physics of creation and the poetry of alignment. Silence, the forgotten portal of transformation. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a radical portal, not just the absence of sound, but the quieting of inner turbulence. It's in this space that the soul speaks clearest. Silence is where the nervous system recalibrates, where trauma breathes, where clarity dawns. Most avoid it because silence mirrors truth, and truth asks us to feel. Tom Campbell describes reality as a simulation shaped by consciousness. In silence, you exit the noise of the simulation and return to source code, awareness itself. Bruce Lipton shows how the body mirrors inner states. When the mind slows, the body heals. In silence, brainwaves shift. Heart rhythm stabilizes. You become coherent. That coherence is a gateway to healing. But silence is not passive. It's active presence. It's choosing not to distract yourself from yourself. In silence, your subconscious rises like a tide. It shows you the beliefs you've been avoiding, the feelings you've suppressed, the wisdom waiting beneath the surface. Silence can feel like death to the ego, but it's resurrection for the soul. Imagine standing in a still forest at dawn. No words, no rush, just breath, earth, and being. That's where the real transformation begins. Not in what you do, but in what you allow. Let silence become your sanctuary. Return to it daily, not to escape the world, but to remember who you are without it. In that remembrance, everything shifts.